Good afternoon, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Chair Popescu, Congressman Pittinger, thank you very much for organizing this important event. And I'm really thrilled to be here in Bucharest, in Romania, and particularly talking on the discussions that my previous speakers already outlined. And I think it's topical to raise the question, is the diplomacy drifting? And I think one statement that I can make already before my remarks, that the times of the statements with deeply concern are long gone. What we need to do are the deeds. So no words, more deeds. And this is exactly what I guess, where it comes to diplomacy, as the Western countries, democratic countries understands diplomacy, foreign policy, and vision. And with this, I think also very important, the overarching title for this year's conference here in Bucharest, the question of, actually it's a statement, reshaping the global security map. And I think I will put a question mark at the end of the statement, asking who is reshaping the global security map? Is it the democratic part of the world, or is the autocratic part of the world that is actually gaining and stepping up? So, of course, everything comes down to rules-based international order that we are fighting for, that Ukraine is fighting for. Actually, if we recall all the agreements that the aggressor have breached for so many years and on so many occasions. So I will try to shed a light with my remarks on the question that who is reshaping the global security map. So the rules-based international order is only as strong as the democracies that defend it. And the road to authoritarian resurgence has been paved with democracy's political complacency. While the unity that democracies have shown in response to Putin's war of conquest in Ukraine is rather remarkable, we must seize this moment of democratic awakening to counter the rise of authoritarianism, not only in Europe and Eurasia, but around the globe. Democracies must use all the legal, economic, and diplomatic tools available to deter authoritarian aggression and lay the foundations for a safer, freer, and more just and prosperous world. Last year, for the first time in the 21st century, the prevailing government type in this region was what Freedom House calls the hybrid regime, which combines elements of democracy and autocracy. The Russian invasion of Ukraine is a reminder that pursuit of democracy and peace are interconnected. There is intensifying battle between democracy and autocracy, where a coalition of free democratic nations of the world is needed to counter aggressive autocracies. There are different fronts in the confrontation between autocracy and democracy. From Russia to China, to Myanmar, to Cambodia, democracy and peace are intimately intervened. The two conditions are mutually reinforcing and stand or fall together. It is rare for a democratic country to invade a neighbor, or for two democratic countries to declare war against each other. Decisions in democracy must carry public opinion with them, and the public opinion will only support war in extreme necessity. An autocracy has no such constraint. Prevailing trends in the world politics, especially the return of great power rivalry, create an urgent need for new strategic thinking in Europe. The effort to devise Europe's strategic thinking for the coming period is increasingly complex because of the imperative to address not only Russia, in our view, the traditional security threat to the continent, but also China and the diverse challenges that it now poses. I'm convinced that the EU must be more than a soft power. We need hard power too. However, we need to realize that the concept of hard power cannot be reduced to military means. It is about using the full range of our instruments to achieve our goals. It is about thinking and acting in terms of power, and bit by bit, the conditions for this to happen are being fulfilled. In addition, we have seen in recent years the instrumentalization of migrants, the privatization of armies, and the politicization of control of sensitive technologies. Add to this the dynamics of state failures, the retreat of democratic freedoms, plus the attacks on the global commons of cyberspace, the high seas and outer space, and conclusion is clear. The defense of Europe requires a comprehensive concept of security. In any case, the normative competition between democracies and authoritarian countries are likely to last. The EU will gain by further reinforcing both its defensive and offensive capabilities as a democratic power, so as to limit and deter interference of authoritarian powers in the domestic political affairs of member states. But the battle of coalitions is much more than just competition between political systems. It first and foremost involves intense economic competition. China's ability to mobilize international cooperation and support is closely related to its economic leverage. In order to be able to compete with autocracies' efforts to succeed, the EU and our allies need to reach out to the countries beyond the EU's like-minded partners. A larger coalition could be assembled through renewed diplomatic activism at both multilateral and bilateral levels, aimed at rallying countries around positions and norms that EU and its partners consider important to defend. An alliance of democracies could play an essential role in this regard. It will serve as a political alliance aimed at forging common threat assessments and coordinating strategies among democracies to position the free world for success in the growing strategic competition with revisionist autocratic powers. The alliance would help foster cooperation to defend against the wide-range threats to democratic countries, counter authoritarianism, and advance shared interests and values. China and Russia castigated the transatlantic allies for engaging in value-based diplomacy. Instead of considering it a wastage of a time gone by, I believe that value-based diplomacy is exactly what is needed during these tumultuous times. And to conclude, we must be prepared to take full, meaningful action to address the three defining challenges facing the democratic world. First, democratic backsliding. Second, increasing assertiveness from autocracies. And the rise of emerging and potentially disruptive technologies. Thank you very much.